So here we are. Welcome to the very first episode of the Legacy Builders podcast. I'm your host, Greg DeWosier. And what we're doing today is we're doing things a little different, starting right out the gate. Instead of bringing someone from the outside, a guest that we don't know, I wanted to start with someone who's at the very heart of this story and why this podcast even exists. Someone I think you should know before we go any further, right? I think so. Our guest today is someone who has dedicated their life to service, leadership, and creating an impact in every space they enter. They're an entrepreneur, they're a connector, and they're a firm believer that the legacy we leave is being built moment by moment, choice by choice, right? Through their very own journey of wins, setbacks, and lessons learned, they've come to understand that legacy isn't just about what you leave behind. It's about how you live right now, in this moment. So today, we're turning the microphone inward. We're gonna be talking to someone, they're gonna tell us where they came from and why they started this platform and what they hope it means for you, our viewers. It's my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce you and welcome to the show. Me, my man. It's a pleasure to have you on this podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on this episode, the very first episode. And I cannot wait.
Thank you.
I cannot wait.
No, it's great. It's great to be here.
What you have to
say. Sure. Thank you.
All right. So thank you again. Right. Let's start at the beginning. What is the Legacy Builders podcast? And tell me what made you want to create it.
So that's a very good question. The Legacy Builders podcast is designed to highlight people who are doing positive things in the community.
Okay.
And I realized a while ago that legacy is really, like you mentioned in your intro, legacy is really built moment by moment, right? There are people who are doing things with intention, and that intentionality is really what helps to create a legacy.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, whether or not you're moving with intention, you're going to leave a legacy regardless, whether you're doing it on purpose or not.
True.
So I realized that there are people out there who are doing things, movers and shakers, and making a real impact in the world,
right?
An impact in society, in their neighborhoods, in their communities. And it really drove me to want to highlight the people who are doing these things, because ultimately, when people watch this podcast, and I really want them to feel inspired to say, I can actually do exactly what that person is doing.
Right.
So for me, Legacy Builders podcast is a platform to highlight the people who are doing great things in their community and being intentional about leaving a legacy behind.
So we're starting off strong. So next, the word legacy can mean different things to different people.
Right.
What does it mean to you personally?
Man, legacy means a lot to me because, I have 5 children, and I think about my kids in pretty much everything I do.
Okay.
Right? And ultimately, I realize that a lot of people don't know this about me, but I have 20 siblings. My father has 20 kids, I don't know. The jury's still out. We don't really even know how many kids my dad has.
What?
Somewhere around 20, 21, not really sure.
Wow.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Wow.
So a lot of people don't really understand what impact that can have on a person, especially when you're talking about how my father wasn't necessarily there to help raise us, right? He had little to nothing to do with my upbringing. And, a lot of that had a negative impact on me, thinking about the fact that I had siblings. Imagine, I have 20 siblings all over the world, in Philadelphia and in New York, and I had a brother in France that I never had an opportunity to meet. Wow. And, that in itself really played a role in who I have become as a person, as a man, right? Not having guidance of a father to help raise me the right way or teach me certain things, right? But at the same time, on the flip side, it really helped me become a better father, right? Or let me not say a better father. It caused me to move with intention, because the reality is, in my opinion, I feel that had I had a father that was there, he could have instilled those same things in me.
True.
Right? But the only thing is, I had to learn this basically by making sure that my kids don't have the same fate that I had coming up, right? Ultimately, I wanted to break the generational curse or the generational cycle that basically he left us. because he didn't leave any legacy behind.
Right.
Outside of my name, that's the only thing that I have.
Wow.
And that is actually what I'm hoping to push forward and to make sure I leave something behind.
Gotcha.
Right? Because on the flip side of that, I have my mom. My mom's side of the family, very huge family, and they played a very big part in who I am and who you're watching sitting here today talking to you. So on one side, I had a father who didn't really leave anything for us, didn't do anything for us. And on the other side, I had a mother who did everything in her power and gave us everything that she could in order to help us leave a legacy, in order for her to leave a legacy behind. So that in itself, makes me think about legacy and what it is I want to leave behind, which is more along the sides of what I've learned from my mom and how she raised us versus what I got from my dad and how he raised us. So it's very, very, very important to me to make sure that I don't repeat the same cycle that he actually generated.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Wow. That's intense. 20 kids. My goodness. All right, so let me ask you a question. Was there a moment or a season in your life where you realized the importance of building a legacy? Would you say that?
I can't say that there was just one single moment that led me to feel that way.
Okay.
It was more along the lines of a series of moments.
All right.
That led me to feel this way, right? Because not having a father in my life and having two older brothers that I grew up with in the house, that's something that we created within ourselves. Like we always had the desire to give back and to create something different. My last name begins with a D, as you know, and I had two older brothers because for a long time I didn't even know I had the siblings that I have, right? For a long time I didn't even realize that they existed. So for a while it was just my brothers, my two older brothers, and myself. So with us being three brothers, last name starts with the letter D, we just became 3D. So I don't know, my older brother's probably gonna take credit for it, but I'll give it to him because I don't think I was the one that came up with it. But for me, it was the moments that we had growing up and seeing the sacrifices that my mom has made. My mom sent us to Haiti, right? When I was about, I wasn't even a year old when my mom sent us to Haiti, and I stayed in Haiti until I was about 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
So my first language was French, and then I came and I spoke Creole, and then I didn't learn how to speak English until I came back to the States. So it was those moments and realizing as we were getting older, the sacrifices that my mom has made in order to really get us where we needed to be. And in order to really get us where we needed to be, mom made a lot of sacrifices to really be able to position us in a way where, she hadn't had herself. Right. So she did the best she could. And throughout that time is where I realized just how important it is to leave something behind. There were nights and days and weeks that I don't remember seeing my mom go to sleep.
Wow.
I would go to sleep and my mom would be up. I would wake up and she'd be up. Hey, Mom, when did you sleep? Oh, it felt like I went years without seeing my mother sleep because every time I was awake, she was awake.
Right.
So I don't even know. So yeah, to me, that's really what it was. It's really a accumulation of moments throughout my upbringing that let me know personally that, you just have to be intentional with leaving a legacy because otherwise you leave your legacy up to chance.
Don't nobody want to leave anything up to chance, especially not something as serious as a legacy. Listen, so what inspired you to create this project? Was there a specific experience that sparked it?
Great question.
Yeah.
What inspired this project is really a few things.
Okay.
I've been wanting to work on this for quite some time. My kids are really part of the one of the driving points that led me to really take action on this thing and wanting to make sure that I showed them by example, by leading with example, just what they can do.
Okay.
And, I'd be really remiss if I didn't include my brothers in this because Chef Michelle, if you don't know Chef Michelle, you're going to find out about him real soon.
Yes, you will.
And he really, when I was at a really low point, he really pulled me up and said, look, man, we don't have time to be playing around. Let's go ahead and get this thing. And ultimately, I have my brother a lot to thank for the fact that I've actually taken the steps and moving forward and creating this platform, because this platform is really, really important. It's important to be able to give back to the people that need it, because there are people out there, and young people really, that don't have access to someone like you or me who can actually give guidance and help lead them down a certain path, right? The path that they won't have many regrets. I can't say that no one will have any regrets coming up, but ultimately, had I have had a person who stood in and stepped in for me and taught me right, you understand what I mean? And I can't say I necessarily had that along the way. We from the standpoint of a male role model, a male figure, I have a set of friends that they're the only people I know that had a mom and a dad in the house. And to this day, that really plays a role in what I do and how I move. So yeah.
So why now? Why did you feel like right now was the moment to launch this platform?
Great question. Great question. I realized that I needed to stop waiting around.
Okay.
Waiting for the right moment. There were times where I wanted to do it, but I had to wait for the right timing, or then next thing you know, it was raining, and then it felt like something just kept coming up.
Always something.
And I realized that through having conversations, when I started basically talking about this idea, and the more people I spoke to, it really became extremely apparent to me that there are people out there who don't have a clue, and there are kids out there, young men, young women, who don't have guidance, who don't have the right people in their ear. They're listening to their friends, and they think, because when we're young, we think we have all the answers. In reality, we didn't have the answers. There's this old saying, and I realized this as I got older. There's this old saying that goes, if you need to know the answer to something, just ask a teenager. Because teenagers think they got it all figured out.
Ain't that the truth?
They know the answers to everything, right?
Everything.
And I realized that the more I talked about it, and then I found myself in spaces where I was speaking to a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old, and realizing that, man, this 16-year-old doesn't have a father.
Wow.
Or this 15-year-old kid just met his father for the first time. For the first time at 15. And he wasn't incarcerated. Wow. So where you been?
Where you been at?
And listen, I think it really starts at a very young age. Like when you think about it from a very, very young age, whether it be from dating and I realize that we don't really have the tutelage and the guidance to really engage in relationships. And I know I mentioned dating, but it's not just necessarily someone dating, right?
Okay.
It could also mean having a relationship in terms of your friendship. Right? Or you have cousins and, even teachers and so on and so forth. How do you engage? How do you have those relationships with people without anyone teaching us that, right? Just like a lot of people say that in schools, they don't teach us about finances. They don't teach us about how to set up our bank accounts. They don't teach us how to be prepared. They teach us how to go to school when we get to college, for college. But that's about it. So, it really, the animosity that I found that is created, it really starts at a young age. Because you have young people thinking that they're ready for relationships, and then they start dating, and next thing you know, the boys want to have more than one girlfriend, because that's the thing that, young people think is what it is. And that's actually perpetuated by a lot of older guys that's, applauding young men for having more than one girlfriend. Wow. Right? So how does that work? You understand what I mean? So I realized that the time is actually past. I realized how late I was. So it kind of got to a point to where it's time to pay it forward. And I didn't want to waste another moment and just not doing what I know is needed, not just by me, right? Because I'm thinking about my kids and their friends and so on, and just a lot of the people that I grew up with that didn't really get the right guidance. A lot of the mistakes that were made, or a lot of decisions, poor decisions that were made based off of someone telling you that they think, oh yeah, man, you gotta have this girl. Yo, you only got one girlfriend. I got people to this day telling me that I need to have a side piece.
Stop.
Listen. That's a whole nother conversation. We're gonna have shows to talk about all of this stuff.
I hope so. I can't wait.
Yeah, ultimately, the time is past. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but the time is past. So no better time than the present.
I hear that. No better time than the present. Pay attention. Pay attention. So you've been in a lot of different places before you started this podcast. Tell me how have those past experiences really like shaped your voice and your vision and where you are today and the person that you've become.
You know, that's another good question. You're full of good questions today, man. I got to tell you that. And,
My
you
man.
know, the places that I've been, I've worked in spaces where I had to give reports to someone who was speaking directly to the president. I've traveled the country and sat with elected officials and all over the country, all over the United States. And during these times, if you know, I've been put in places where I'm speaking to elected officials that now have to go back and tell their constituents, their communities, responses that I'm giving them.
Okay.
So being in those spaces really put me in a situation where I'm not afraid to talk to anyone. I'm not afraid to be in any space. I'm extremely comfortable in my own skin. I'm extremely comfortable with where with my ability to speak to anyone.
Okay.
So because of that, I feel that it puts me in the best possible situation to advocate for people, to really highlight people who are doing amazing things.
Okay.
Whether you're a DJ, whether you're a comedian, whether you're an actor, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer. You know, there's so many people doing great things. And I can talk to anyone, right? Whether you're a truck driver, because truck drivers are leaving a legacy.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Right.
Right? Everyone, everything that you do, every moment that you move, whether you're doing it with an intention or not, you're leaving something behind. So I believe that the spaces that I've worked in, the places that I've been to West Coast, East Coast, Central, you name it, I've been there. And during those times, it really was just it was just a setup to get me ready for the situation that I'm about to step into right now. And being out here for people like you, watching this show right now.
I hear that. I hear that. I love that. I love that. So let me ask you a question. What's the message behind this podcast that you hope people don't miss?
The message that I hope people don't miss when they watch this platform is that they can do it too. That you too can prevent forest fires, right? It's not like, oh man, when I said that, but ultimately, I don't want people to miss out on the fact that they can get up and they can make a change. They can make a difference. All you have to do is start. There's that old saying, you don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great. So ultimately, I want people to watch this platform and feel inspired to do something, to feel inspired to say, I can do that. I can do what that person's doing.
Yeah.
I can tell jokes.
Right.
Right? I could sing. I could rap. I could be an influencer.
Right.
I could do all of that. Right?
Love that.
To have people step outside of their comfort zone, if you will. You know, it's okay to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Because that's when you experience the most growth. So for me, that's the message I hope people don't miss out of this. I want people to watch this platform and feel inspired and feel like, hell yeah, I could do that shit.
I know that's
feel me?
right. Yeah, I feel you. For sure. Oh man. Listen, so what kind of guests and stories, you know, do our listeners expect to hear in your upcoming episodes?
That's a good question. So the answer to that question is simple. You know, we're gonna have people on this platform from doctors. I'm talking therapists, psychologists. I'm talking attorneys. I'm talking comedians. I'm talking about DJs. I'm talking about fitness preachers.
Love it.
I'm talking about real estate agents.
Love it.
Life coaches. There are gonna be so many people on this platform that are geared to help the next generation coming up. We just talked about relationships, right?
Right.
Excuse me. We just talked about relationships. And I want to have a platform or segments, not a segment, but segments where you have actual therapists who are talking to young people.
Okay.
Because in reality, people need it. Young people need the education on how to engage in a relationship.
Right.
And if we start from a young age, right? I don't know. If we start at 8, 9, don't get me wrong, I'm not teaching an 8-year-old how to have a relationship. But just start having conversations with these young kids. Just trying to get them to know that they can trust in you.
Right.
They can believe in you.
Right.
And the hope is that by the time they're 15, 16, they're more inclined to listen to you. But it's going to take a community.
I hear that.
Because if I'm doing it in my house and the next 6, 8, 10 people are not doing the same thing, now there's a disconnect. So I'm really hopeful that the things that we're going to be doing on this platform is going to be able to be spread out throughout the country, really, because I don't see this being a platform where we're only here in South Florida.
Gotcha.
I want the people in Idaho, South Dakota, Oregon,
Oregon.
Washington State,
Oh.
right? Michigan.
Okay. New York.
You name it.
How about New York?
Buffalo, everywhere.
Okay.
New York. New York, where you at?
Where you at?
Right? So ultimately, that's my vision, and that's what I'm hopeful for.
I love that, man. I love that. So that's great stuff so far, man. So tell me, is Legacy Builders a podcast or is it something bigger than that?
Poof.
Tell me, is it
Great
just
question.
a podcast?
Right now, for you viewers looking, it seems like a podcast.
Okay.
But to your point, it is much bigger than that. We have other things coming up that I won't really get into right now. We're gonna have merchandise. We're gonna have so many things because my vision really is to speak to young kids also.
Okay.
Little kids. I want to have an impact from the beginning. Like in other episodes, you'll see the type of conversations that we're gonna have, and we're not gonna pull any punches. We're gonna go right at it, man. We're gonna have the conversation that some people don't want to have, right? I remember watching Kirk Franklin has this new podcast,
Den of Kings, right?
And Den of Kings.
Yeah.
Shout out to Den of Kings.
Yeah.
I really love it. Exactly what it is you're doing out
Facts.
there, and it really speaks to the things that I want to do. If I had the finances and the funds, I'm looking for some sponsors.
Talk
and some
about it.
investors.
Come
Talk
on
to me.
now.
Come on,
Come
get
be
at
part
me.
of the team.
Because the visions that I have,
Let's go.
huge. So yeah, this is much bigger than just a podcast. There are a lot of things that are coming up in the works that we're working on behind the scenes, and I can't wait to show it to the public. But in due time.
All right, cool. Okay, I like that. So let's talk a little bit about your personal story, okay? Let's talk about how's your life, your own life, shaped the way you show up for others?
Wow. My own life. In my lifetime, I mentioned the fact that my father has 20 kids. I mentioned how he wasn't around. There are times when, I remember one time in particular, my dad showed up to my house randomly on my 12th birthday and didn't know it.
What?
he just happened to be coming through.
Stop.
And that in itself played a real big role. It had a major impact on me. And
Can't even imagine.
the reality is, my walk, my hope is that I am able to give back enough to where people do not repeat the same mistakes that I've made.
Wow.
Or don't make decisions that I've made. Because I've made some poor decisions,
Right.
and I've made some mistakes. And there's a difference between a decision and a mistake. A mistake is accidentally hitting someone, right?
Right.
Or stepping on someone's foot.
Right.
Right? Or getting into an accident. That's a mistake. But when you make a clear decision to go and do something, an act of violence, or to cheat on your test, or whatever it is,
Right.
like certain things are decisions
Right.
that carry repercussions. They carry consequences. And my hope and my goal is that I give enough back, and I have enough people on this platform that show up. Right? That show people that, I don't have to make that decision. Just because my buddy did it, or my friend did it, or my brother did it,
Right.
or my cousin did it, or my mom did it, or my dad did it, I don't have to repeat the same
Right.
mistakes.
Right.
I don't have to make those poor decisions that they made.
Okay.
Because ultimately, we don't want that for our kids, right? We want us to be able to go and have our kids make great decisions, better decisions than we have.
Right.
So that's how I feel, and I hope that my walk is going to be one that by the time you turn and you look and you see what I've done, it's going to be something that people can appreciate, because ultimately I really just want to give back. I want to give back to the people that's coming up behind me.
Man, that's pretty powerful, bro. I gotta tell you, I appreciate what you're saying. So let's talk a little bit about adversity, man. All right. Let's talk a little bit about adversity. Like what adversity have you
Hope so.
faced that other people don't know? I'm sure there's something. What adversity have you been faced with that no one knows about? And how has that shaped who you are right now?
Whew, man, where do I start? I've definitely been faced with some adversity, and I find that a lot of it was by my own hand. I almost lost my family.
Wow.
Due to infidelity, I cheated, and I was. I want to. It would be easy for me to just chalk it up to lack of guidance, but
Right.
reality is, I probably knew better, but I didn't at the same time. So there were situations where I literally almost lost my family, and I had to really fight and claw to earn trust and to rebuild what was broken.
Right.
Because I'm the one that broke it. I'm the one that pretty much shattered it. I'm picking the pieces up myself and trying to glue it back together.
Right.
Not to mention, I found myself getting in trouble with the law. And again, these are decisions. Some of these things are decisions.
Right.
It's not necessarily mistakes.
Right.
And when you surround yourself with people who are making good decisions, chances are you don't really make the poor decisions. And I think there was a good amount of time that I didn't necessarily surround myself with the right people, with people who were making the right decisions and uplifting my family and
Right.
doing the things that I know I needed to do.
Right.
Right? Because deep down, I was still holding on to the past or the youth or the things that I felt that I learned from, the I wouldn't say, I guess you could say my peers, right? Because it didn't really get me anywhere.
Right.
So ultimately, the decisions I made has put me in a position to where I had to work extra hard. So now when I talk to the young people, the people coming up, like I say, I try to keep them from making the decisions I made. I
Right.
try to keep them from going down the same path that I took.
Right.
So ultimately, adversities can really be a monkey wrench in plans that you set for yourself.
Tell me about
But one of the biggest changes that I've tried to do is I try to keep God first and have Him walk with me as
Right.
best I can. We all fall short, but I like to think that I'm doing I could do better. Let me not say I'm doing the best I can because God will strike me right now. Let me keep it 100.
Don't want that.
We're not gonna do that. You feel me?
Don't.
So but yeah, so that's it.
Okay. Man, hey, you opening
Word.
up, bro. I appreciate that. So let me ask you this. How's your family or upbringing, because you talk about your family.
Right.
How's your family upbringing influenced the way you really like think about your purpose and community?
Well, my family has influenced me a whole lot. So thank you for that. You're right. I do have a big ass family. My brothers and I, my mom is so proud to say, my mom had 3 kids, right? I know my dad had a gang of kids or a boatload of kids. I mean, I say gang of kids.
Right.
A boatload of kids. But my mom, she is super proud that the 3 of us were able to give her 14 grandkids. So you
14.
imagine between the 3 kids and their spouses and then the 14 grandkids, if we show up to a party,
That's
you
it.
might as well, that's the party.
That's the whole
okay,
party.
just put that in your mind already.
Right.
But my family is huge. We all love each other. We pick each other up. We hold each other accountable. And that's very important because there are times when people are making bad decisions. And the reality is, if your family's not going to hold you accountable, who the hell is, right? Because they say your best friend will tell you when your breath stinks, right? At least he better tell you, bro, you got something in your teeth, right? Exactly. So my family has definitely shown up in times where I feel that I needed them most. So shout out to my family for
That's
sure.
what's up. What lessons have you had to learn the hard way that you're
Man,
not
that's a
bringing
good
to
one,
every
too.
room you walk into?
Honesty is really the best policy. I find that being honest trumps everything, right? Because sometimes, at least you put all the cards on the table.
Right.
People are gonna know what to expect from me. People are gonna know, so you're not gonna wonder who I am, what I'm saying, what I'm thinking, because I say what I mean and I mean what I say.
I know that's
Ultimately.
right. Go ahead,
So,
dog.
I've learned that trying to keep secrets or thinking that me holding on to something is gonna really help someone out because I don't want them to be hurt right now or whatever the case is. When in reality, honesty is the best policy.
Right.
And just being upfront, being direct.
Right.
That way everyone knows what to expect from you.
Right.
So that's huge for me, for sure.
That's what's up, man. I like that. That's what's up. So let me ask you this next question, right? What are some of the non-negotiables that you live by when it comes to leadership and legacy?
Man, a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Authenticity. Authenticity.
Like
Be
that.
yourself. And you know, you're gonna see me right now, and who you see is who you'll always see.
Right.
The version of me is who you're always gonna get.
Okay.
I try not to be the guy that goes up and down,
Right.
because you'll never know what you're gonna get. Are you gonna get me down here? Or are you gonna get me up here?
Right.
You know, and that's really the challenge,
I
right?
bet.
It's to stay even kill. Keep that energy, keep that same energy. You know, and you know, I tell my son, my 8-year-old,
Jax.
sometimes he'll get in trouble. You know, you have kids, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
sometimes you get in trouble, and when he gets in trouble, he's, you know, at first for a while, he's, well, yeah, I'm, you know,
Real low,
no,
like.
no. Keep the same energy.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you have to be proud of making a poor decision.
Right.
But be who you're gonna be. Be your authentic self, and that's the non-negotiable for me. It's me being who I am. So
I
that
like
way,
that.
no matter what,
Be
you're
you.
always gonna expect the same person. No matter where you go, no matter
Yeah.
what circle I'm in, people are gonna know that they're gonna get the same me.
I like that. That's dope. That's dope. That's dope. All right. So when people listen to this podcast, right? What is it you want them to walk away with? Like, what feeling do you want them to have when they walk away after watching one of your episodes?
Man, that's a good question. I feel like I touched on this earlier, but I'll bring it back.
Okay.
When people look at this, watching the episode of this podcast, the feeling that I want them to get out of it is, hell yeah, I can do that.
Hell yeah.
I mentioned
like that.
my plans on having actors, doctors,
Right.
lawyers. I
Right.
mean, people from all walks of life. And ultimately, there's going to be a little girl or a little boy somewhere that's going to watch this episode or that particular episode, right? And they're going to look at it and they're going to think, damn, or darn, or dang, or however they speak, right? And they're going to say, man, I really wish that I can do that. But I want them to know that they can.
They can.
Because you have to start somewhere. Remember, I
Right.
said you don't have to be great to start, but you have to be. You have
start.
to start to be great.
To be great.
LeBron
That's
James didn't come out dunking on people.
Nah, he
Steph
didn't.
Curry didn't come out raining
Rain
threes
threes.
everywhere. It took work.
Right.
And he was just a little kid from somewhere.
Right.
And that's what I want people to understand. That's how I want people to feel when they watch this episode. Yo, that person, that man, that woman was just a kid from somewhere.
somewhere.
That really stuck to it.
Right.
And was intentional about leaving a legacy.
Right.
And you can too.
Right. Love that. Love that, man. I love that. I love that. So let me ask you a question, right? What's one story from your own life that captures the spirit of what Legacy Builders is all about? If you could pick one story, is there one story that you could choose from?
Whew, touched on this earlier, I feel, but you know, one story, I don't have a story. I have stories. And those stories are going to
Okay.
be told throughout this platform
Okay.
as we go in and week out, talking to different people and meeting different people coming from different walks of life. Once
Okay.
again, as I mentioned. So again, the stories that I have really originated with my brothers, with the original 3D. If you see this, it's crazy. I've seen this. I've seen people throw up the 3, and you know, I don't know what they mean by it, but I can tell you straight up that what I mean by it is 3D. It's 3 brothers.
Three
Last
brothers.
name starts with the letter D.
Love
and,
that.
You know, our goals and our dreams of leaving something behind. So I can't say that there's one story, but I know that having brothers like that growing up really made a difference. I mean, yeah, we fought. We fought. Hell yeah, we fought. But at the end of the
Right.
day, no matter how much you fight, you still my brother though. And
That's
we're gonna
right.
figure this thing out. So
Facts.
if you're doing some dumb shit or some dumb stuff, man, I bleep that or not. But man, if you're doing something stupid, come here, man. At this point, I'm the youngest of the 3 that I grew up with.
Okay.
And in many circumstances, we don't speak like I'm the youngest. We just speak. We just all brothers at this point. So it's not really younger, older, or whatever. It's really, you know, trying to push the message that we really came up with as we were growing up. And I can't, again, I have cousins. I keep talking about my brothers, but I also mention the larger family. And it's really all of us pushing each other. If someone did something wrong, hey, come on, man, what you doing? Tighten up, right? So really, it's just a series of things that, or situations where we all had to step in and pull each other up from one time or the next.
So we often talk about impact and influence, right? Let's talk about healing. How does healing connect to legacy? Right? Because healing is big, man. So yeah, talk about it.
You know what I learned about healing is that you can't put a timeline on healing because
that.
there's going to be someone that thinks that, oh man, you're supposed to be over that by now.
Right.
You're supposed to be done with that by now.
Right.
Nah.
Nah.
You can't put a
He said
timetable on
nah.
it. But the reality is you still have to work intentionally about healing because sometimes we hold on to things, and the things that we hold on to is really what's holding us back, right? So while I believe that whenever someone goes through something traumatic or some type of experience that causes them to take a minute,
Right.
right? I had this one post that said, take a minute. Sometimes we need to take a minute and just take a minute, right? So
Right.
sometimes we really need to be intentional about healing. We can't put our healing in the hands of someone else.
Right.
If you and your significant other got into it, you can't depend on them to heal you inside. They can change and they can do things on their own to let you see that they're trying to be different. They're trying to do things differently. But you can't depend on someone else for your happiness,
Right.
for your laughter. You can't depend on someone else for that.
Right.
You have to be intentional about it. So healing is a journey. And throughout these episodes that you'll see that come before you, you'll see that we're gonna have people to help aid with the healing, to talk through those things.
Right.
By no means am I an expert on healing, but
Right.
I've had to heal. I'm still healing.
hear
And I
that.
find that when I became intentional about my healing, that's when things started to change for me, for sure.
So what role does vulnerability play in your leadership, and how the conversations you plan on having on this particular platform? What role does vulnerability play? Let's talk about that.
Vulnerability, I found that, sometimes vulnerability can be taken for granted and it can be taken advantage of.
Right.
But in the right place and in the right hands, vulnerability is a tool,
Right.
right? It can be used as a tool
Okay.
for betterment to help you advance. And sometimes when you're vulnerable, you open yourself up to situations that you probably wouldn't have found yourself in before.
Right.
And from the standpoint of having someone else that can resonate with you. Because if I'm not vulnerable with you, how will you know what I'm thinking? If I don't open up, how will you know how I feel? You won't, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
Exactly. So ultimately, that's really how I feel about vulnerability. And I think that vulnerability can be used as a tool for good, but just make sure that you take care of that vulnerability. You don't give it to anyone.
Right. Facts. I hear that. So let's fast forward 10 years, bro. Where do you see yourself in 10 years on this platform? How do you feel that? How do you hope that you? Yes.
That's great. I'm so
Right.
glad you asked that. Because not too long ago I was having a conversation with my cousin. He asked me, "Where do I see this? How far do I see this going?"
Right.
And I mentioned earlier, I see kids and people in South Dakota, in Oregon, in Washington State, in Michigan, all over watching this platform.
Right.
How great would it be if I could sit right here, just like you sitting here talking to me right now?
Right.
How great would it be if I was sitting there talking to Oprah?
Ooh.
Or LeBron?
Okay.
Or Steph?
Steph.
As a legacy builder. We talking about people who are building legacies, right?
Right.
How great would it be for that? Because at some point, there are influencers that started off where I'm starting off.
Right.
Look at us. We're sitting here in borrowed space, talking to each other. And ultimately, 10 years from now, I want this thing to go worldwide. Why
Yeah.
not? Not why not, just why not? You know what I mean?
Right.
I really have a vision to take this so far that my name will resonate with legacy. When you think about legacy and building, you have no choice but to think about the legacy builders.
Love that. Love that, bro. So look, finally, man, let me ask you this last question. What do you say to someone who feels like they have purpose, but are scared to step into it?
Wow. What words of encouragement would I give someone who feels like they have a purpose,
Right.
but are not sure what to do?
Right.
Go for it. Go for it. Remember, I said early on, You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Like
and
that.
don't be afraid. Because just like I'm sitting here in front of you, it took a lot for me to get up here.
I know
but
it
I had
did.
to do it. I believe in what I'm doing so much
Right. I
that
feel
I
it.
had to do it. I had to keep going. Because the reality is that you're gonna have a vision. And someone else is gonna listen to your vision and
Right.
you're like, I don't know how I feel about that. Or they may not agree with you.
Right.
That's their business. You take bits and pieces from people to help make your vision great.
Right.
'Cause that's really part of what it is, right? We all of us are taking little bits and pieces from other people for us to become who we are.
Love that.
That's how we're raised.
Right.
Right? We watch someone else do something, you're like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I don't like the way they did that, but I like the way they did that.
Right.
So you'll take bits and pieces. So for me, what I would say to you is, don't be afraid. Don't let fear stop you from going out and fulfilling your dreams and building that legacy and leaving a legacy behind. Because remember, you're leaving it every day. Every moment you wake up, every time you walk out your house, you're leaving a legacy behind. So yeah, don't be afraid. You can do it. Like, really, it sounds so cliche, but you can do it, man. Go get it.
Love that. Go get it. Man, listen. I can't thank you enough. Listen, that's it. That's it. We've done it. We've done it. The first chapter's in the books. It's official first chapter of Legacy Builders. And I hope that you've learned a little more about the voice behind the mic. Right there, okay? And the vision for this podcast. And most importantly, the heart behind it all. Remember, legacy isn't built in one moment, people. It's built in small choices that we make every single day, the conversations that we have, and the courage that we show up in the face of doubt. My story is still being written, just like yours. And guess what? This platform is here to remind us that we can be intentional about the kind of story that we're telling to the whole world. How impactful is that? In the episodes ahead, you're going to hear about incredible guests, people who are making a difference in their communities, overcoming challenges, and living out their purpose in real time. My hope is that each conversation will leave you inspired to take action in your own life. And if today's episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that their legacy matters. Follow the podcast, leave a review, and join me on this journey of building something that lasts far beyond ourselves. Until next time, keep building. Your legacy is waiting.